Hello and welcome to the SFCA podcast. Our goal is to inspire travel. We want to expose you to what Miami and South Florida has to offer. From Key Biscayne to Coconut Grove, South Beach to Calle Ocho and everywhere in between. Miami is a vibrant city and offers a wide array of popular attractions and venues. Come join us. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us once again. This is our 46th Zoom call. As we wait for others to join us, let's take an unofficial poll. If you can go ahead and utilize the chat feature, make sure it's working for everybody. Give me a good morning, if you could. There we go. Thank you, Elba. Thank you, Larissa. Thank you, Carolina. All right, real quick, yes or no? No explanations, just yes or no. Do you agree or disagree? And the question is, do you agree or disagree with the Miami spring break curfews? Agree or disagree? Okay, we have a lot of yeses and agrees. Look, it's a good thing. Some slight challenges, but it is a good thing. Happy marvelous Monday, everyone. So officially, spring break is here, although we started somewhat long ago, but officially, as far as the weather is concerned, today is the official first day of spring break at exactly 11:06, if you really need to know. Thank you for joining us. Can you believe this week marks the 4th year since COVID officially was recognized by the World Health Organization back in March of 2020? It's truly changed our lives. We rose to the challenge and we overcame, and we're much better as a society, as individuals today. Special recognition to all the sales teams, hotel managers, support staff that are on the call. For all of you for joining us for the first time, welcome to the call. We're going to share some facts, figures, and stats with South Florida tourism. We also have some entertaining and informative facts that we hope you will enjoy. I will ensure everyone's familiar with the chat feature. Obviously, it's working. Everyone is enjoying it. Don't forget, we do have prizes. We're giving away two $50 gas cards. Andrew, make sure you have your question ready. Ceci as well. It could either be pertaining to the presentation or it could be a general trivia question. First person to answer on the chat wins $50. Now, if you win the first time, we disqualify you from the second time on this call to ensure that everyone has a chance to win. Very simply, just listen to the question, be the first one to give the right answer via the chat, and you win. Today, we have Andrew Wobensmith, Director of Research and Business Intelligence from the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau. He'll update us on all the industry stats and figures, the most extensive update you will receive regarding hotel occupancies, ADR, airline traffic, and passenger counts, and so much more. And then we have Ms. Ceci Velasco, Executive Director of the Ocean Drive Association. She'll also give us an update on all things South Beach this weekend, last weekend, and into the future. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Ceci for a South Beach update. Ceci, good morning.
I thought we were doing spring break.
Yeah, spring break.
Okay, good.
Spring break, South Beach.
I'm ready to talk about spring break. So thank you so much for having me, Miguel, for, what was it, 20, how many times did we do this?
46.
46 times. I can't believe
46.
I've been on this with you for 46 times. Thank you so much for including me. I think I have so much respect for our hospitality industry, the concierges that go above and beyond to make everybody's day special. They have to know a little bit about everything, and they have to be counselor, psychologist, wedding planner, birthday planner, babysitter, and everything in between. And I just have so much respect for the concierges that really make Miami special. So thank you for including me every single time. It's been an honor and just a lot of fun too. So, you said today is the official start of spring break. It's the official start of spring. And that's what we have. We have a beautiful March spring that brings people from all over the world to Miami and Miami Beach. And it wasn't until too long ago that we were never a spring break destination, right? I don't know, some people who are veterans that have been around understand and remember that spring break never used to come this way, little bits. People who had enough, I got frozen. People who had, families and came here traditionally, and it was just really not a spring break place, not for the past, I don't know, if you look at the last 15 years. And really, there was a shift from Memorial Day when the Air and Sea show and displaced kind of the Memorial Day crowd, that when I really saw an influx of people coming in for spring break. And of course, spring break is different in different universities throughout the country. So we saw 1 weekend, 2 weekends, 3 weekends, that type of thing, right? And it's been challenging over the last few years. I was out there every single night over the past couple of weekends. The barricades up and down Ocean Drive. I don't know if you remember this. I was here, and I certainly do. The first stampede that happened, all of the people rushed through the cafes and into the businesses. Mango's closed for the last 2 weekends, and I'm going to tell you, they were the ones that really, they're a big place. They're open. It's not a hotel lobby. And they really took the brunt of it, as well as the Clevelander, the first time they ever had a stampede with no barricades and nothing going. It was pretty horrific. It was very challenging for not only their employees, but the guests. And it was just really scary. So the following year, they started putting up the barricades. So the barricades are there really to protect the hotels and the restaurants. And that's how it started. But every year we're having challenges, and we think we've got it, and then some incident happens. So we want to get back to is a beautiful March spring, right? Spring. We're not known as a spring break destination, and I think we want to go back to that as a brand, and as what we're known for is for spring tourism. If people come on their university break, that's better, but we just are trying to get away from that. And what I was talking to Andrew and Miguel about, we've worked really hard with the GMCVB to maintain the messaging that's going on around the world. A few years ago, it was domestic. People were hearing more and more about issues that we're having in Miami Beach. Then a couple of years ago, we heard that it was headline news in Europe. And then last year we were hearing, and those of you that work at hotels were also hearing, when they're making their reservations, the question was, is it safe? So now we have a reputation of being an unsafe place to come. And that took a lot of damage control to stop with the messaging. I have had so many media calls to do interviews, and this is the first time you've heard me talk about spring break publicly, because the GMCVB works really, really hard. The city of Miami Beach invests a lot of their money into this GMCVB to be the counselor, and their number one recommendation was, do not talk to the press. You all work in hotels and restaurants. Something horrible happens there. Something bad happens there. The thing that you don't want to do is to hear it and see it in a headline. Same thing with us, right? So this is what I'm trying to tell people. Resist talking to the press. This is going to be the thing they talk about all the time. It's going to damage our tourism for the long term. So we don't talk about it with the press. I don't post any negative pictures. We try to, not that we're hiding anything, because amongst ourselves, within the city and the industry, and amongst us, concierge, our hospitality industry, we're happy to discuss it. What you don't want it to be is in the Daily Mail. What you don't want it to be is people in, Bulgaria talking about how unsafe it is. We don't want our restaurant owners to tell their children not to come to Ocean Drive during spring break, which is what has happened. So this is why that media control is very important. That damage control plan that we have is really, really important. But also, the businesses have really gotten together and have supported the city. You all agreed that the curfew was a good thing. We had voluntarily suggested, agreed to close at midnight if that was going to help. So all of our nightlife, there's only 3 nightlife places on Ocean Drive. Also, 3. 43 cafes, 37 hotels, and 3 nightlife places open after 2 o'clock. 3, right? Mango's closed for the entire weekend, completely supportive of all the measures, and they would have closed at midnight voluntarily, along with Ocean's 10 and along with the Clevelander. So everybody is in this to heal it and to make it sound. Now, the good news is the hotels were full. We had great occupancy with great tourists and great guests. The bad news is the restaurants were down, and I'm talking as much as 60%. We had staff that was cut, and that's painful. People not making enough money to make their rent at home, and the people not making enough money to make their rent for their restaurant and for their leases. But overall, they all were in agreement that whatever it's going to take to make it safe and to change the narrative and to the 30-40% that they do have, that their guests are comfortable and safe, that it's worth it. One bad incident over March will affect our tourism for the rest of the year. And when I say our, I'm really talking about Ocean Drive, South Beach, and the MXC, right? The Fountain Blue is not going to be hurting so much. The Eden Rock isn't going to be hurting so much. But immediately impactful is going to be Ocean Drive. And I think we can all agree that Ocean Drive is the postcard. Every single item that I see coming out of Miami that talks about generally has the neon lights and the Ocean Drive skyline. So it does affect tourism. It does affect us all the way around. But I think what I'm hearing is that people are, and the businesses are very supportive of all these measures. They have been told almost a year in advance to expect curfews. So in that way, those businesses didn't have to invest a huge amount of money to cancel big parties because they knew there was the possibility of having a curfew. And I think the city was very helpful in that regard. I said they can't call a curfew early, just to let you know the specifics, right? You can't call for a curfew early. It takes an act. The act has to trigger the declaration of emergency. The declaration of emergency gives the city manager the authority to call a curfew for 72 hours. So I explain this because I do have a chat with 200 people on it, and I am constantly explaining these things. And if you want to be on the chat, I put my email in there. They're not just Ocean Drive people on that chat. I have people all the way up from the Surf Comer down to Smith of Walensky on that chat. So I am happy to share those kind of notifications and explanations if people don't understand what's going on. And I do it on the chat so that everybody can read it all at once. So if you want a link to the chat, email me. I put my email up there, and I'm happy to send you the link to the chat. And there are certain people that ask really good questions for the majority of the people. Some people ask me questions offline because they don't want it to be redundant, and I'll answer on the chat if it hasn't been there before. But this Ocean Drive Managers chat has been really, communication is key. Communication is really key. You know, the city manager asked for the umbrellas to be pulled down, right? Okay, now the sun was going in, the cafes were saying we can't really, our guests are getting burned. What can we do? So the communication was great. I had a conversation with the city manager, and I had said, listen, this is our situation. And they agreed that once the sun was over the building, then you could put your umbrellas down. A lot of the cafes didn't see the need for that, so they didn't do it, right? And then the first night out, we're out, and the police said, with the umbrellas open, the drones can't see into the crowd. And I'm like, all my people need are a good reason. Just let them know why they're pulling. And immediately I put on the chat, please put your umbrellas down. And boom, 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 boom. Everybody started putting their umbrellas down because they want to be safe too. And that's obstructing the police drone, then they want to be cooperative. So it's not the sense that there's no cooperation. It's a sense there has to be communication back and forth. And Miguel beforehand was telling me that an employee got their car towed and had to pay double the towing fee. I tried really hard to get the message out that employees could park in garages for the $2 an hour rate, but they had to show proof of employment. So it's not a perfect system. It's not a perfect communication system, but we are trying our best to make sure that the employees are not overly burdened and they can continue to work, but also that we're supporting those high impact measures that will keep us all safe. Did this do the trick? I don't really know yet. I think we're not done. We have last weekend, which is the toughest weekend, and she did have to call the curfew. There were a couple of tweaks back and forth, and we were talking to the chief of police, and they had a couple of release valves in the barricades and small things that would just make all the difference. And there was positive communication going back and forth and positive work going back and forth. And so that made it a little bit easier logistically for the curfew. The week before, the second week is always a lighter week. It's spring break, but it's still a lighter week. The third week is the tough one. This coming weekend is ultra. There are going to be high impact measures, but the state of emergency is over. So the cafes were only, sidewalk seating was only suspended for 2 weekends. So this coming weekend, you will again have sidewalk seating on Ocean Drive. You will again have able to park in the garages, I believe. There's not going to be a curfew. It's always been good business for us, and it's Miami Music Week, so we're looking forward to that. I don't know. I mean, how do businesses feel about it? Businesses want to be safe. How do people feel about it who work there? They're sad because they're not making the revenue that they expected, of course. Was it too extreme? I personally don't believe that it was too extreme. It was painful, but it wasn't too extreme. There was a call for a court injunction to lift the curfew and not to have it. And those were 3 nightclubs that were not part of Ocean Drive. They probably had the most to lose. I think it's very indicative. And I'm going to tell you, I defend my 43 restaurants and 37 hotels against this idea by Miami and Miami Beach residents that Ocean Drive businesses are the ones that are bringing spring break, that they're the ones that are promoting all these people. Well, our hotels are full of great customers. Our restaurants are down almost 60%. That means the people in the street are not our customers. And I would rush to say that CVS and Walgreens probably sold out all their food over the weekend, and there was not one sandwich to be found on the shelves of CVS because they're not coming to our restaurants. Our restaurants are not the place that is drawing the spring break. We have 72-acre park and a 72-acre beach that is South Beach, right? And I was there. These guys are walking around trying to talk to the girls that are sitting in the cafes, trying to talk about, they're college kids. The great ones that are coming in for actually spring break, they're college kids. They're trying to make friends. They're trying to pick up a date. That's not a negative thing happening on South Beach. The other population that comes to capitalize on those spring breakers, those have always been the problem for us. So, I mean, that's kind of where we're at. I think it really proves that the cafes and the hotels are not the ones that are attracting spring break. It really is just spring. It's break. It's South Beach. They're out on the streets. They're out on the sand. They're out in the park, and then they're trying to go to clubs. And that's what hurts when the curfew hits and the clubs can't open. But I don't know. Maybe they're going back to Fort Lauderdale, who wants them more than we do.
Thank you, Ceci. Thank you very much. Anyone have any questions? No? Okay, Andrew, you want to cue up your presentation for me, please?
Sure. I just want to say something before, and thank you,
Sure, please.
Ceci. Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
Ceci. That was really well taken. And we talked, folks, before this call to talk about how we are unified on our message and what's important to put out there. I think that what matters from my standpoint is that we have hope and that sometimes change is painful. We all know that. And there's a lot of charged feelings on several sides of this argument, of which we don't want to take that. But when I think about marketing, and especially from a brand perspective, Ceci hit it on the nail, where we need to stop talking about it in such a way that gets into people's minds. We know from research, from all kinds of things, that things change when people just stop talking about you, right? Things change a lot. And people will forget, they will memory hold these things over and over again to the next thing. And I think that once we continue to adhere to that plan, that I think we're going to see results, but maybe not necessarily expect it in the short term. So I thought I'd mention that. There's all kinds of things I want to mention before I start my deck, that even as soon as this morning, I had some slides that I wanted to share, and they were very neutral, but it talks about this topic And I wanted to just basically say that there are other destinations that have been through these things. We know Fort Lauderdale has been through this. And while they had some different things going on in Fort Lauderdale, in some ways, they are not the same as Miami Beach in other ways. Nonetheless, they did take a hard stance. And we can see that in the long term, things really, really change. I don't know if anybody had been to Fort Lauderdale back in the 80s and early 90s. I will say I was there one time. I do remember things that are not the same, but they did make a lot of improvements. It wasn't easy at that time, but if you've been down to Fort Lauderdale recently, I think you can agree that Fort Lauderdale has turned it around. You know, they have amazing hotel inventory. Again, loyal to Miami-Dade. I'm on the team Miami, but I will say that Fort Lauderdale has done a lot of things that are right. And honestly, I think it adds to our destination as a whole. So just want to put that out there first, and then I'm going to share with you my presentation here.
Thank you,
So
Andrew. Very good point.
go for it. All right. Can we see my presentation?
We
Are we
can
good?
see it. Let's see. Yes, sir.
All right, all right, all right. Well, let's just start off our first headline. Tourists can't quit us. Okay. That's really what I want to say here. And I'll say this makes me laugh. You might find this funny. I had a friend years ago. She actually ran a men's halfway house. Okay. Drug and alcohol people. These people obviously like to party a little bit too much. And she said to me once, she said, Andrew, you know when it's love is when the police are involved. And I just love that. I just crack myself up because do our tourists love us? Yes, they absolutely like us and love us. So maybe that's why the police are involved. So I'll share that with you. You can take that and borrow that and use that as your own. So that being said, we've looked at some studies here. AAA obviously does a lot of travel research, and they talk about the fact that we're still top of mind. Florida's still top of mind. We have the things that people want. We have to be reminded of the fact that we have beaches, family-friendly attractions, cruise ports. It's just a logical place for people to want to travel, particularly this time of year. They talked about here, according to their study, Orlando was the top choice for spring breakers. They do mention Fort Lauderdale, and Miami as actually two areas that are just hot when it comes to cruise port. We know this actually anyway from what we've seen over the last couple of years, but that's still the case. A lot of people are looking to our area to take advantage of these cruises and all the different options that we have. We show that AAA travel data shows a 28% increase in cruise bookings for March and April, 60% increase for cruises departing from South Florida. So that's just absolutely amazing. We are just seeing gangbusters activity at the port. A few things to point out here. I'm not going to go through this whole spiel. You'll have this deck after this is done. But international spring break trips are actually up. We saw last year a lot of international travel from Americans has ticked upwards as they've started to branch out. And we also see that with spring break. And so a lot of these destinations are in Europe, like London, Paris, Rome, Dublin, and Amsterdam. So they're looking for some of the same things, but they want experience as well. So I just want to put that out there. Let's continue. Now, unfortunately, I had a video I wanted to play for you folks. And what I'm going to do, it won't work. Our sound does not work apparently in this. So what I'll do is I will paste a link in the chat at the end of this meeting so you can listen to this yourself. But there were a series of commercials back when I was a kid back in the 70s and 80s. I'm from, as many of you may know, I'm from the Philadelphia area. I was born and raised, lived around, been in up until I lived here for 15 years. So I have a perspective that might be a little bit different than people who grew up here. And so I would definitely suggest that when this is done, watch this video. You'll see what I thought, what people about me thought about Florida back then. And I will say that even though we might hear these things going on in the media that might sound negative, I think a lot of people feel like I do. I think Florida is a magical place. I think Miami is a magical place. A lot of people agree. I can tell you that 50% of our visitors tell us that they've already been here before. So that means that you have a lot of people that come here and they come back again over and over again. And we see that in our visitation. So anyway, we'll continue. Some positive news on the shopping mall front. What they're seeing here, this was a company called Placer AI. They're a mobile data company. And so what they're seeing is they're seeing some generally positive trends when it comes to traffic in some of these shopping areas. That's good to know, as we know that there has been some lackluster performance in shopping in some areas. They mentioned that in Q4 of last year, things started to be a little mixed. And then in January, there was quite a bit of slide. But in February, what they're saying is that foot traffic appears to be up for the most part. Indoor malls and open air shopping centers. However, some areas like the outlet stores they see some softness, and that could just be because people are just hesitating from shopping. So While that might be the case, we still see overall that people are traveling and they're out there shopping and potentially better than what they have been in a while. So that is very hopeful. And I wanted to mention this too, this study done by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. I thought it was an interesting thing because we've talked about this for months and months and months. We've talked about US consumers, their expectations, their their perceptions and intentions when it comes to inflation and spending. And while this article might seem a little bit on the negative side, it really isn't, in my opinion. So what it's basically saying here is that consumers, excuse me, same difference, right, are bracing for inflation and remain essentially unchanged. So I think that people have started to wake up to the fact that it is a reality that we know that prices are going to be going up, and we are preparing ourselves in some ways. And so while they say here in this bolded quote, the average perceived likelihood of voluntary and involuntary job separation increased. So people are starting to feel a little bit more that they might have some jeopardy in their jobs. And they also are saying at the same time that perceived likelihood of finding a job in the event of their job loss decline. So what they're basically saying is, yeah, some of these expectations, as we talked about for months and months and months, while they might be a little bit less optimistic, I think that people are starting to become more realistic. And actually, in those next lines, that's where I really point this out, that respondents anticipate their earnings are going to grow a little bit, their overall personal as well as income on their household. But they also say that while their income is going to rise, they are saying they expect to be spending more. Okay, so while that's not necessarily a good thing, we already know that people have accepted the reality that prices are going up and they are adjusting their spend in a lot of ways, as we've discussed. And fortunately for us, Miami has continually bucked a lot of trends in that our people come here and they spend. So maybe they're going to be saving money in some areas because of some of these other areas. It's about opening your wallet, right? You have X amount of dollars and you're going to allot your money to different things. It's going to be your durable goods, it's going to be your services, right? Services and travels are part of services. And what we've been seeing for quite a while now is that people still continue to open their wallets for travel. So maybe they're doing a little bit, doing without a few other things in order to experience these other things like travel. Prices going down? Well, nope. Let's just put that out there. Their prices are not going down, as we mentioned, and people know this, as I just said. So won't spend too much time here. I've shared these similar charts over the months here, but what we're seeing here is that inflation is still going up, and we're rightly understanding that this is happening. It is happening, and that there's probably it is going to continue to happen. Now, prices will continue to go up. The rate of change is going up, and that's really what everybody's looking at. The Fed's target was 2%, but we're not seeing that happen anytime soon. I mean, we have a lot of factors that are going into this, and I mentioned a couple of months ago that the Federal Reserve is talking about lowering these rates this year, a bunch of rate cuts. And I said, I don't think it's going to happen. And I'm still going to say it now. I don't think it's going to happen because it's really the only tools they have to fight this inflation. So they will probably continue to keep those rates at that point in time to try to keep the economy cooler anyway. And hopefully, we'll see some improvement there at some point. But they're here. Inflation's here to stay for now. Some good news on the employment front. I haven't shared much in employment for a while, but I just want you to know that Florida is leading the nation in terms of overall job performance, overall number of employment, unemployment low. But I want to say that Miami-Dade County is actually leading the pack. So that makes me feel good. That says that, and that is just another testament to the fact that tourism has done so well here, and the demand is there, it continues to increase. Miami-Dade County in January, for example, had the lowest unemployment rate. And if you go down a few more lines here, you'll see that 23 out of 24 of the metro areas in Florida had year-over-year job gains. However, the largest, us. And you can look at that trend line down there at the bottom is leisure and hospitality jobs. And underneath it's a subset called accommodations, food services. Looking at that trend for the last 2 years, starting with the left, going over to the right, you can see that the job gains have been progressively better and better. That blue line, 132,000 leisure and hospitality jobs in January 22. Fast forward 2 years, what do you see? 155, almost 156,000 jobs. So we do see a lot of job creation. And again, we are outperforming the rest of the state for sure. Some quick update from Miami International Airport. We are seeing steady growth. Once again, as I've mentioned, weekly domestic arrivals, looking at the last 26 weeks. That last week recorded March 9th, we had almost basically a 6% year-over-year increase in domestic arrivals, which is amazing given that we've had nothing but growth. That is a testament again to the popularity of Miami, but also things such as adding additional air service. That's been really helpful and continues to grow our domestic arrival numbers. Same thing with international. Actually, international has picked up even more, almost 8% of this last week, year over year, in terms of weekly international arrivals year over year versus a year prior. Port Miami, haven't really shared too much recently, but as I mentioned just a couple minutes ago, Port Miami passenger volume is just off the charts. Looking at the last 12 months of activity up there in the upper left-hand side, we had 7.5 million passengers roll through Port Miami, looking at 25%, almost 26% change over last year. And then versus pre-pandemic, at the best part of our, which was prior, our biggest records, we're still up over 9%. And if you look at that line chart at the bottom, it just simply illustrates the average number of passengers going through Port Miami in a single day. And you can see that even as a couple months ago, we had 30,000 plus people moving through Port Miami in December, and that number just continues to improve. From a hotel perspective here, as we mentioned, Seth, you mentioned it. But looking at our top three, our occupancy, room rate, and revenue per available room, these are the top U.S. hotel markets. In January, we were number 2, only half a percentage point away from tying with Oahu Island. Again, we are the top of the pack. Towards the end of last year, we were not seeing quite as much of this as other destinations started to essentially outperform us in some areas, I would say. However, we've always typically been in this top 3. And what we see starting out the beginning of this year, that we are back in the top 3. So we were number 2, almost number 1 in occupancy, and then number 3 in terms of room rate, and then RevPAR, the all important metric for hoteliers, was up on a county level almost 4%. Looking at the past 28 days ending March 9th, again, the story they are breaking down is that we continue to exceed on occupancy versus last year in almost every region of Miami-Dade County. So the occupancy has been generally positive. Room rates have been mixed, but we do see some growth in certain areas of room rate year over year, and that would correspond into revenue per available room. In most areas of Miami-Dade County over the past 28 days, we have seen gains in RevPAR. Even some areas where we didn't, it still was down only 1%, 1.4%, not very much. Broward, a similar path, and but still, if you look down at the bottom, Florida as a whole, we are outperforming Florida for hotel performance as well. And then I don't usually share this because I just don't get into it. We have a lot of data that we don't necessarily share. It's not that we don't want to, it's just that we have a lot of data. So what I've done here, I've had some group questions asked to me recently, so I thought, let's share some data we have here on what our group and transient segments look like in Miami-Dade County. So we have different areas that are profiled here. On the left, you see Aventura, Sunny Isles, Miami Beach, downtown, and so forth. And then what I've charted out here is that occupancy by those areas, then demand by those areas, and then looking at this business segment for demand and ADR. And what we're seeing here is that, well, yes, we know transient has been strong. I mean, we are mostly a transient, leisure type of a market. We still see that while transient was strong, we do see shoots of green going on with our group. And in some cases, like downtown Miami, we see that demand has picked up a lot. Now, while I know that there's not as big of areas as something like Miami Beach, overall, it represents a nice turnaround versus the same time a year ago. Even areas like North Dade up almost 35%. But really what I want to point out here is that their average daily room rate, as we know, we've struggled keeping up with the year prior because we had extremely high room rates. And so it's hard to follow a year of such strong room rates. But we see here that while in certain like ADR on an area level wasn't always as great, when you look over to the far right, you see that group is actually performing quite well in most areas. And actually that year over year percent change has been better as opposed to transient in January. And actually even more interesting to me personally, I'm not a hotelier, maybe you know better than me, but what I see here is that in most cases, these group rates are actually higher than our transient. So I think that's a really positive thing on the group front. Our infamous 90-day occupancy in hotels and short-term rentals, as Ceci mentioned, and we can see starting with the left here, that dotted line is from last year. These bars are what represents what's on the books for this year. We see a little bit of space there. In other words, the booking pace for these last 2 weekends has not kept up. However, as Ceci probably pointed out, or you surmised, is that we've actually hit our occupancy over the last several weeks because there's been a lot of last minute bookings. That's what's really made it up. And if we look, we see further out, actually next weekend, it's going to be busy. It's going to be even a little busier than last year. So Again, don't fear. We know that people are still coming here. They're still in our hotels. But 90-day outlook does not look bad at all. And then going to the monthly view, looking at the hotel reserve occupancy, again, it's a good story so far. The booking pace is up over last year. For the first from March, April, May, June, we see it's up year over year. It's up. August maybe down a tick. But what I really want to point out there is October. October is bananas. That's the word that I would use. It's bananas. And so we probably know why that is. There's a number of reasons why that is. There's actually a really one big reason why it is, and I'm sure most of you, not all of you, understand what this is. It's Taylor Swift. The Taylor Swift effect is it's incredible, right? It's one thing to hear it from people and even look at other destinations and see how they perform, but it's also interesting to look at our market. And what we're seeing right now is that those 3 days that are paying, Usher's here too. We won't, I didn't want to leave Usher out, but let's talk about Taylor Swift. We see that those 3 days in terms of reserve occupancy, that Friday, October 18th, it's a three day event. 1 in 4 hotel rooms are reserved right now on that day for October. So that's pretty amazing considering it's October, so 7 months right now. These hotel rooms are
You got garbled.
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah,
It's still
disconnection.
garbled.
How about now?
We can hear you
Oh.
better now. Go ahead.
Okay. Apologies. I don't know what that
Oh,
was.
yeah, now you're good.
Okay. Well, all I'm really saying here is that we are seeing tremendous pickup, and it's really interesting and really great to see that October in particular, but overall, this is Taylor Swift tour is going to bring a lot of great business here. Just to touch on some meetings that we have here, not going to run through all these. These are some new meetings that are coming to the area, things like Racket X, Excel, and Accelerate. And then over here, really, you just see the dates, and then I've listed some peak and total room nights there to give you an idea of how much, what are these meetings bringing in terms of overall overnight visitation. And some of these, like the American Academy of, I don't know how to pronounce that, 22,000 room nights. And even down there at the bottom, and tentative, and hopefully these things will become positive. We do see quite a bit more activity. And again, some of this stuff like Adobe Max in October, looking at 16,000 room nights. So again, October towards the end of the year is looking very strong as well. So finally, I'll end on these bullet points that not much has really changed in U.S. consumer perceptions. They're cautious. However, they've adapted to the reality. We know that our county is still running strong on the vital tourism metrics. March is looking very promising. We're still top of mind as a destination for better or for worse. We may have wanted to break up with spring break, but maybe spring break does not want to break up with us. They love us. So our hotels are still full. Again, touching on the fact that hotel group business has been strong. ADRs are continuing to improve, and that we see that our pacing, hotel occupancy remains strong. And
Spring, not spring break, spring.
spring.
Amazing
just spring.
presentation. Amazing presentation, Andrew. We do have a few questions. Elba Machado asked, are the shopping malls in the US or in Miami when you referred to the malls?
Apologies, that would be the US.
The US. And then also Charlotte and Melanie had a question. I don't know if it was a typo or not. It shows that Aventura is getting an $800 average, and as well as Sunny Isles. I don't know if that was a typo in your presentation.
Question, let me take a look. I believe it's correct for it would be the last 28 days.
So it is an $800 average.
Yeah, I'll double check it for you before I send the deck out, but that should be correct.
Okay, excellent. And then to answer Lewis's question, yes, we will share his presentation in the post show notes, along with some video clips that we did not show for technical reasons, but we will include it in the post show notes as well. Thank you very much, Andrew. Amazing as always. And then thank you for the correction, Ceci, in your presentation. Yes, it was spring, not spring break. So spring starts today.
Spring
And
break.
then looking forward to the future, Ceci. There's some events that are happening in the next few months in South Beach and Ocean Drive.
Sure. I mean, when you're talking about spring, I mean, people take vacations. Europeans take vacations in the spring. We take vacations in the spring. We have Passover coming. People come down here for Easter. They take family vacations in the spring. March and April are our best months of the year traditionally before spring break ever happened to us. So we know that if spring break goes away, we're still going to be full and our restaurants are going to be full. So it's spring in Miami and Miami Beach, and that's what I keep saying. It's spring. It's a beautiful time, and everything is going to be, full. We're not going to lose the tourism. So if I can quickly, I'm sorry, just to capitalize a little bit on the conversation here without going into kind of an overview of things to come. We had lots of activations in the past few years. A lot of people, the city had put activations last year, and there were some activations with, as you know, Juanes and Alana Morissette and everything else. I think it's a cautionary tale. We didn't have any activations this year, right? And we were able to really focus all of our security efforts, all of our business efforts, and the city was able to focus on changing the narrative, public safety, and just really securing these 2 weekends. But there were no activations. So I think that is really something to take note of. The activations that we had, and it was popular, and people thought that this would be a good idea, and it might have been. But what we found is these activations bring people, but they also don't stop the spring breakers from coming, right? The spring breakers are seeing there's activities and they're like, well, great. If they're having activities, then they're ready for us and we're going to keep coming anyway. So I think it's a cautionary tale about curating activations. How is it affecting tourism? How will it impact our hotels and our restaurants? How will it be a positive economic boom to us, or is it going to have unintended consequences? So I think as we move forward with our tourism and activations, we need to be very, very cautious and note what worked and what didn't work in the past. So I'm going to be really focusing on that. This was not an economic boom for us, as I told you before, but it was a very, very good move and everybody felt safe. We have employees, that we have to protect. And I thought that we did a good job with that, or the city actually did a very good job with that this year. And we all collaborated and supported it, which I thought also was very positive. There were a lot of police presence, and everybody thinks police presence is kind of a negative. They were groups of bicyclists that happen to be police officers, groups of guys on the corner that happen to be police officers. They were not menacing, not threatening. They were really fitting in along with kind of the crowd. And I thought that was a very positive way that they approached it. Just my comments as far as the police presence. I felt not threatened, but I felt very, very safe. And believe me, I walk around Ocean Drive for the past 8 years till 5 o'clock in the morning by myself. And I've never, ever felt uncomfortable until last year. So I felt very comfortable. I saw that nobody was feeling really threatened. They were talking to the police officers. The police officers were very kind and jovial back and very helpful. So those are my last 2 cents on that. Cautious and curated activations. People are coming up with all kinds of ideas of what could happen now. I also think that this isn't the end all. I think this is the first step, and we will probably see much of the same next year. I don't know to what extreme, but much of the same next year until we round the curve. I'm very cautious to cry victory too early. So with that, we do have wonderful things coming, right? We do have wonderful things coming up. I know the city has a lot of different applications of things coming in. F1 activation, a Ferrari, more car shows happening, which people love. There is on May 11th, it's, what is it called? Fleet Week. It's Fleet Week for the Navy. And so there's going to be this Top Gun Beach Olympics in Lummis Park at Muscle Beach. It's going to be really fun because it's going to be the Navy versus the Marines. They're going to have tug of war contests. It's going to be a really fun event, healthy, wonderful things happening. Then it all culminates with the Air and Sea Show, which we're very much looking forward to. So people are asking, well, how did the Air and Sea Show conquer Memorial Day weekend? And, please don't forget that it always helps to have hundreds and hundreds of military walking up and down the street and staying in our hotels to break up the crowd. That's the first thing that happened. The second thing that happened with Memorial Day weekend and Air and Sea Show is it's a daytime event. It's a family-friendly daytime event on a flow. everybody's coming at different times and leaving at different times. It's not a congestion or traffic impact or any of those things. And this is the secret to their success. I'm really excited because as you heard me talk about the Holiday Festival of Lights last December, which was really beautiful, which with a full orchestra and, all those light projections on 5 buildings on Ocean Drive. We want to do the same thing for the Air and Sea show on the Saturday night. So we're working on trying to do a very patriotic holiday festival of lights going on that Saturday night with a full orchestra in Lummis Park. It would be on the north side where there's no traffic because it's easier for us we don't have to stop the street, or we don't have to stop traffic because the north side has the promenade that's already that way. So I'm really, really excited. That's the Miami Music Festival. Again, with the orchestra, and it's Mickey Markoff, right, with the U.S. Salute, that national salute to our heroes, and the Air and Sea show. So they're very excited about doing that, and that would be in lieu of their nighttime concert. So it brings it off the sand onto in the park and onto the street with this magnificent light show. So I'm working on that right now. I'm putting in the plan, and we hope we have the support of the city to do it like we did with the Holiday Festival of Lights, because I think it would be really, really magnificent. And of course, who could forget Miami Beach Pride, right? So that will be coming up. I think, Andrew, do you know it's in April? Miami Beach Pride is coming up in April, and they're going to have the festival. We're going to do something also, I think, with the projection on the buildings. This is something that really is turning the corner, and that's a good brand for us to have. Ocean Drive has some of the most beautiful light projection festivals and events that, you can see in the entire world. So we're very excited about continuing with that tradition and moving forward. They had it on Lincoln Road. They have it different places. But like I said, with that 72-acre park, there's the vision. You can see it from so far away and you can see the entire festival from one viewpoint without any obstruction. So that's why Ocean Drive works best for these holiday festival of lights. So I'm looking forward to that. We have a couple, if you haven't come to Ocean Drive lately, you haven't been to Ocean Drive. I've been saying this, right, Miguel? That's kind of my thing. But we have our restaurants are becoming more chef inspired. We have now like the South Beach Brewing Company, where the old David's Cafe used to be back there, and on 11th Street. So I mean, the district is turning the corner. The restaurants are being high up. There are now 3 restaurants at the Gabriel. So I mean, if you haven't been to Ocean Drive lately, come down to Ocean Drive. We have chef-inspired places. The Avalon has Chef Cal, and who can forget Chef Cal from The Forge? Call Me Cuban has Chef Michael Calvo, and of course, Laurent Trudeau, who is the chef from the Betsy. But, Gianni's has a chef. The V&E Restaurant Group has corporate chefs. Everything is corporate or chef-inspired culinary arts. And we have a big group of cafes on Ocean Drive. So more cafes and only 3 nightlife places. So, that's not really the brand anymore.
Excellent.
Do you have any questions you want to?
Any questions for Ceci? You have the Pride Parade on April 14th from John. Thank you, John.
So when the Pride Parade comes around, what we really try to do is keep the restaurant and hotel people on the west side and the viewership over in the park. And I wish that we could do that for spring break, because the crowds over here, the danger is that they have some kind of a stampede or something and it goes into the hotels. This is the first year they're doing this, but we're really hoping that we can get, the people who are in the hotels and the restaurants can stay on the west side, and the viewership and the people who are really kind of just hanging around and want to experience the vibe can be in the park. But that's how they've done it for the parade, and it really works.
Cool. There's a follow-up question for Andrew. Andrew from Lewis. Andrew, do you have any information on what the drivers being focused on driving business to increase in Miami downtown?
There's a number of things I can certainly send you. I don't think there's any one thing. I saw already mentioned cruises one. The general downtown has changed. We're adding a lot of hotel inventory. There's there's shopping, we have Brickell City Center. So in my opinion, it's not just any one thing. It's certainly just a popularity thing. And we know that sort of grows together, right? Miami Beach is a really popular destination, but people start to see, particularly when people have experience with Miami, the first time they come to Miami, they might see Miami Beach. They might want to say, I'm going to Miami Beach, I'm staying there. But they might say after a while, like, hey, I've been here a couple of times. Downtown looks like the rate might be better, or maybe I haven't seen downtown. So I think that's a combination of things that people are seeing. But overall, our destination is more popular.
Great.
I'll
Perfect.
mention, you know what I didn't mention is we still have these Sunday concerts in the Ocean Drive Promenade Music Series at oceandrivearts.com, which is hosted by Andrew and the GMCBB. List all of the different events that we're having every single Sunday. We had opera yesterday on Ocean Drive during spring break, and it was wonderful. We had over like 150 people come out for that. So spring break is, those are like four blocks out of the entire mile. It's not from 5th to 15th. So we do have beautiful things. We have klezmer next weekend, and then we have the French Corn Collection on the March 31st. It is one of the sweetest, loveliest events that you can go to. Bring out a chair, and we have loaner chairs from City Bike. Bring out a chair from 5 to 6:30. It's probably the most relaxing hour and a half of your weekend to send people. I have so many people. Half of the people that come are tourists. Half of the people that come are residents. And it's just really, really sweet.
Amazing. All right. Before we wrap up, Andrew, your trivia question. Do you have it ready?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And I want to point one thing out. Thank you for pointing out that room rate issue on my deck. I went back, looked at it. You're absolutely correct. Some of my sorting went one off. I hate when that happens. That rate you mentioned actually would have been in Surfside Ball Harbor. So good catch. I'll make sure I fix that and send over to you. The store remains the same. So that's a good thing.
Excellent. Thank you,
So,
Andrew.
that said, if you were paying attention, you had to pay attention to this one. We talked about Taylor Swift, right? I'm sure you're paying attention. I mentioned the occupancy. What are the 3 days that she's here? What are those occupancies?
Ooh, Yara, 18 to 2020.
It's the occupancy, not the date.
Occupancy,
There's 3 of them.
3 days.
3 days, 3 different occupancies.
Okay, it's zipping through. So 18, 25 to 23.
Tough one. 25, 23, 16 is the correct answer.
25, 23.
25, 23, 16. That's correct.
Perfect.
It
So
looks like-
Jenny,
So
Jenny Onega. Jenny, congratulations. You just won a $50 gas card. Please reach out to us at my email so I can get it to you. Congratulations, Jenny. And then also real quick, we did have a mention from, one second, before we go to Ceci's trivia question, and then we'll wrap up completely. There was Art mentioned the Beach Polo World Cup coming up as well. On the
Good.
beach.
Thanks, Art. That is
So
always a lovely event because it's very high end, high scale. Everybody loves to see those things happening on the beach.
exactly. Ceci, your question, your Ceci,
I
your
have two
trivia
questions.
question.
I have two questions. One is a
Okay.
personal question, and you can answer later, or you can email me. One is a very, very personal question. Ready? Where should my husband take me for my birthday that's not on Ocean Drive? I'm going to ask the best people in the city that can
Cool.
give me those answers. Where should my husband take me for dinner that is not on Ocean Drive for my birthday? Now, here's the trivia question.
Trivia
And
question coming up.
here is the trivia question. How many sidewalk cafes do we have on Ocean Drive?
How many sidewalk cafes? 34, 43, 42, 47,
43.
43. And according to my records, hold on, let me go all the way through, make sure I didn't miss anybody. And it looks like Rachel. Rachel is the winner. Congratulations, Rachel. You got a $50 gas card as well. Please reach out to me so we can get it to you. Lots of information. Thank you very much. And we're actually 5 minutes early. So thank you both, Ceci and Andrew. In our next call is coming up next month, as always, from the late, great Dr. Maya Angelou, author, poet, and civil rights activist. People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. I think that quote is going to be timeless. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Enjoy the heat. It's starting to warm up. Take care, and we'll see you next month. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our goal is to inspire travel. We want to expose you to what Miami and South Florida has to offer. From Key Biscayne to Coconut Grove, South Beach to Calle Ocho, and everywhere in between. Miami is a vibrant city and offers a wide array of popular attractions and venues. Come join us.